So, I'm joined by Andy Schofield. Thank you ever so much for agreeing to do this interview. It's an honour to have you here.
Well, thank you very much indeed for inviting me, and I look forward to our conversation.
Definitely. So, we'll get straight in. My first question to you was, obviously, you're stepping down as Vice-Chancellor here. What were some of the most important duties that role carried? What were some of the main things you did, either on a day-to-day basis or as your time overall at Lancaster University? What were some of the key decisions you made?
Goodness, that's a very big question to start us off. Being Vice-Chancellor means that you have the privilege of leading the university, representing it in many different occasions. Obviously, I'm the accountable officer, which means that if something goes wrong or indeed something goes right, I'm the person that people turn to and expect both an explanation and an accounting. And in that regard, it's an enormous responsibility, but it's a huge honour. And it's an honour because Lancaster University, as you will know, is a great team of both students and staff in a community environment. And to be able to represent and speak for the university when called on to do is a privilege that I will never regret doing.
No, I definitely agree, and I do agree with you. Lancaster University, from the 2 years I've been here so far, has been an amazing community, and there's been so many great achievements that it's seen, and so many of its alumni have gone on to do great things. Speaking of achievements, what were some of your sort of personal either favourite moments or achievements as your time as Vice-Chancellor here?
Oh, goodness. Achievements, well, all of them, of course, are team efforts. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the privilege is being at the front of a team that is fantastic. But there's some amazing high points. From a student's perspective, the Students' Union and the work that they've done in winning roses 4 times on the trot, that's an enormous source of pride, I think, to the whole university. It's never been done before. I was so tempted, I didn't quite bring myself to do it, but Charlie, who's my opposite number of York, said I was so tempted when he handed over the cup, the Carter Jones Cup, to Jack. I was tempted to say, Charlie, I'll never know what it feels like to lose a roses competition, but I did resist.
No, I can imagine.
Did resist doing
I can imagine how tempting it was. I was looking at the footage, and it was, I think, a very fun moment for everyone. And as you mentioned, never been done before. Yeah,
it's a great achievement, and it's the pride that the whole Lancaster community comes to. Everybody knew what was going on, and it was surprisingly close at the end, but that just added to the excitement. So that's one kind of shared experience that I will just never forget. But I mean, if I look back on the 5 years that I've been here, it's been a kind of roller coaster of different things. I came, and this may have been before your time, but COVID lockdown had just started as I arrived.
I was in my A-levels at that point.
So you would have experienced it in a very different way. Many of our current students will have experienced it during their kind of sixth form or school career. At university, of course, we had students who were used to pre-COVID way of working, trying to settle down to what it was like to be socially isolated. And then we had new students arriving for whom they'd not been to university before. This was totally new, and doing so in a really strange environment. And all that time, the responsibility of staff to kind of switch to hybrid and often online learning, it was an enormously stressful time for students and for staff. And there were a lot of decisions that we had to make in short order. I sort of felt that government quite often would tell us what to do 3 weeks after we actually had to make the decision anyway. And so there was a lot of work through that. But seeing that now in the past, there are plenty of other things that we're really excited about now.
Yes, definitely. And I think we'll get onto those in a second. But almost on the flip side of that, you mentioned that your time as Vice-Chancellor, I think in any role at any university, particularly recently, obviously we've had COVID-19, financial crash recently, cost of living crisis.
Yep.
Given the beauty of hindsight, is there anything that you may do differently? Any decision you may take or may not take from your time as Vice-Chancellor? Is there anything you may change at all?
You mean if you could, with the perfect hindsight,
with
would you do something
perfect, amazing hindsight? Yes. Would you do anything differently?
Of course, the answer is yes. With hindsight, you see decisions and you think, oh, it could have gone that way. Could I, with the information that I had, do it differently at the time? I felt I was making the right decisions at the right time, but with hindsight, a range of things that just didn't look good, which with the best will in the world, we weren't intending the outcomes to be what they were, but we would have done things better. I think many ways, though, we got some of those calls right. We were one of the first universities to bring back face-to-face teaching, and there was a lot of pressure both inside the university and outside the university to not do that, because nobody really knew, and that could have gone wrong, of course.
Yes, definitely.
So lots of kind of interesting. Would you have done this a bit earlier? Would you have done that a little bit later? I think the one thing which I think we still haven't got right, and I still don't know the answer to, is how do we continue to grow the vibrancy of Lancaster's wonderful campus? It's great. We've got students and staff back populating it, but we still haven't quite found the right offerings that I think students really welcome. So
I definitely agree, and I think trying to strike that balance, because obviously, I mean, feel free to speak on this and correct me if I'm wrong, finances in general for universities aren't looking great at the minute. So finding the balance of revitalising a campus, modernising it and making sure it's fit for students and making sure it feels like a community is a great idea, but also at times it's not the most cost-effective thing or necessarily deemed the best spend of money at the time, because finances are stretched, universities are stretched. Close to where I live, away from Lancaster, I live in Lincolnshire, and the University of Lincoln, I know, for example, has really been struggling. And other universities around sort of the UK have really sort of been having to pull back, some cutting courses and staff. So I think definitely finding that balance, has that been particularly difficult?
Yes, and it continues to be. I mean, the issue, just in short, is that we have a very committed staff who really want to deliver the best teaching experience that they can and the best research environment to push the frontiers of their knowledge. But the amount of income we can get for both of those activities is constrained, and we've really benefited in so many ways from the international students that have come to campus. They've brought culture, they've brought a vibrancy to the campus, but they have also cross-subsidised the things that we've been able to do, which has allowed us to teach in a way that's really put the student first. Lots of one-on-one contact that students experience, whether it's in lab works, in seminars. And I think the challenge that we face is that the money that we get to do those things from UK students doesn't cover the cost of what we're actually delivering. And that's true right across every university. And now international students are starting to make different choices. Many of them are choosing not to go overseas for their education. That has a consequence both on the vibrancy of campus, but also on our finances, and we're having to learn to live within our means. But we are always trying to do it through a Lancaster-specific lens, preserving that which is most important to us. And in thinking through the tough decisions, some of which we've made, some of which we're making now, it's always with a view, well, what university do we want to be? The importance of it being a collegiate university with the 9 colleges, really important for many people's experience, through to the research that we do that makes our teaching relevant, gives people the skills that they need beyond, as well as the fact that we're a wonderful campus environment, and we never want to kind of give up that. So, and that means face-to-face. It means it's about the relationships that you build up, and that's kind of core to the Lancaster experience. So as others are trying to navigate those decisions, we are in the same boat. We've got a bit of resilience, which means we haven't had to rush to do those things, but the winds that are pushing against every university push against Lancaster too.
I'd definitely agree on that, and it is, tough decisions. One thing I picked up on, you mentioned this is sort of a random question, unfortunately. You mentioned that international students are they're not necessarily no longer coming to the UK, but they're sort of studying closer to home. Is there anything you know of either universities in general or Lancaster University specifically? Is there anything that universities are doing to try and entice international students back?
Well, we're doing an awful lot, from marketing to putting forward to going out to talk to potential students and applicants and putting time and effort into that. But I think we also need to recognise that times change and student choices will change, and we should be resilient to that too. So one of the things that we're doing is continuing to grow Lancaster's international presence. And one of the things I'm most excited about is the Indonesia campus that we're opening with Deakin University in Australia, but we're locating that in Bandung in Indonesia. And because while it's true that students are making different choices, it is still also true that students value a Lancaster education, and if we can provide it in a way that may be closer or in an environment that is easier for them, then that gives a bit of both resilience to how we operate, but gives choice and opportunity to students who might otherwise never consider coming to Bailrig to do their studies, but might think, well, I could go to Indonesia, I could go to Malaysia, I could stay in China, I could whatever, and providing that international Lancaster degree is really important. And Lancaster's really led the way on this. Actually, we've got more than a third of our students who will graduate with Lancaster degrees may never set foot on the Bailrig campus. Obviously, we hope they do. They come to summer schools, they come back. But I think that's a really interesting way in which Lancaster has tried to live up to its strategic ambition of being a globally significant university. So I think there are things that we're doing, and it's interesting to watch universities that had never done anything in terms of what's called transnational education now coming to Lancaster and saying, well, how do you do that? How do you do it in a way that is consistent with your values, consistent? It's not about building buildings overseas and setting up a Lancaster Inn wherever. It's how do you do it in a way that's appropriate for the environment that students want to be in.
Definitely, and I hadn't actually known that so many students had studied abroad and wouldn't actually step foot, so to speak, on the Bailrig campus. And it's very good to hear that there is that sort of degree of resilience. And finally, my last question, looking ahead to the future. You mentioned it briefly earlier in the interview. Is there anything you're looking forward to in the future, either at Lancaster University or personally only I believe you're going to Glasgow University, it is?
Yep.
Is there anything you're looking forward to, any projects, anything that's sort of in the works that you're allowed to tell us about, so to speak?
Well, first of all, I will always relish my time in Lancaster, and I have to tell you, as the time of leaving approaches, it's getting harder and harder to leave, and I walk around the campus thinking, oh my goodness, what have I done in deciding to go somewhere else, but the opportunity there was one I couldn't turn down when it was offered to me. There's so many projects that are happening in Lancaster that I kind of want to see how they end up. There's a really exciting one that is around the Morecambe Bay curriculum, which is where colleagues, particularly in FAST, but actually right across the university, are redesigning in partnership with some of the local schools a curriculum that is relevant to communities around the Morecambe Bay area. And it's fired up by some of the research that we do. It's done in projects. It's very sensitive to the local environment, so the local project-based things. And I think there's a real opportunity there for young people who may be 10, 15 years off going to university to actually get a bit of Lancaster in their education from a very early stage. So that's one exciting project that will flourish. It's alongside, of course, the Eden Project Morecambe, which will be another big initiative.
I've heard about that, and I must say, I'm quite excited.
Yeah, so that's something that my very first meeting, as actually even before I'd started as Vice-Chancellor, in the run-up actually it was just pre-COVID, actually, when I thought the world would be a different place from the one I landed in. The very first meeting was about Eden projects and how we could move it and get an Eden project up here. And I'm really pleased to say that over the 5 years I've been here, that has progressed. And I think that's pretty much a certainty, ready to open in 2028. Lots of other things I could talk about, but that's some real tangible ones that I'll look forward to coming back and seeing.
Definitely. And is there anything at Glasgow University you're looking forward to sort of coming into? Obviously, you'll have to take over from the previous Vice-Chancellor.
Yep.
Is there anything you're looking forward to taking over in general, or possibly in the wider sort of community at Glasgow?
Well, Glasgow is a very different university from Lancaster. It's very old. It's 574 years old. So you arrive in a place which has got lots of tradition. Of course, that makes it very difficult to change things. Not that I am particularly coming in to want to change things. I think one of the interesting things for me is it's a very different political environment, and I'll have to learn and understand how the Scottish system operates. And the great thing about Scotland is it's got a great passion for education. It's very deep-seated in the culture, the pride in the university, just as in Lancaster we've got great pride in our local community having a world-class university on our doorstep. That's echoed right the way through Glasgow, so I'll see that as a similarity. It's a much bigger institution, which I'll have to learn, and it does a range of subjects that in my university career I've not been exposed to. Veterinary science, for example. I've never worked at a university that has a veterinary science school, and so I'll need to get to know the ins and outs of that, which obviously, as you can imagine, is very legislated. It's got professional bodies, and that's one example. Many things of dealing with a university that is even more comprehensive actually than Lancaster is. But to end on the note that I will really miss this place. You've got something really special here.
I can imagine. I mean, I'm already very much attached to the university, so I can't imagine, after 5 years having to leave somewhere you love so much.
Yes. But, hopefully they'll invite me back. I mean, obviously as a spectator rather than a participant, but you've got every reason to be very proud of your university.
Thank you. And I'm sure the university would love to have you back at some point. Thank you ever so much, Andy, for the interview.
Lucas, thank you. It's nice to talk to you.
Thank you.